And now I want to ask our guest from Sweden, Peter Eka.
Could I start just to use some of your program before I start?
Yes,
Don't
Yeah.
close that.
I will open.
Open.
And he will talk about safer municipalities, the Swedish way from 1965 until today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking me here. This is the first time in your country. So I'm very happy to be here. And also today I have left the police. I'm working as the chairperson, the president of an NGO in Sweden called Safer Sweden Foundation. So I'm happy to be here. I have double hatties. I had taken my police chief's hat off some years ago. Today I'm running this NGO, trying to make it better for people in Sweden, especially make it better for victims of crime. That is very vulnerable. When you are a victim of a crime, you are very vulnerable. That's what we're working with. So I made some pictures of today to present for you, but maybe I should say something about your presentation. Could be. Is it possible?
Yeah.
To
like
use some of your slides?
Yes,
To
of course.
to try to that I comment something directly what I've heard, because I didn't understand what Laura said, but I could read on the slides. I
Yeah.
tried to read on them.
Which one is needed?
You had something of the main objective or something in one of the very first slides.
This?
Did you have
Yeah.
number 2 then? What could that be? Even further. Number
Yeah. This?
Į pradžią. Dar. O su anglų kalba pas ką nors
yes, and then okay, let's stay here. Yeah. What I will talk for, what I have prepared, what I have been working with this for 40 years more or less. What I think is the main objective of the program to involve active community members to crime prevention. I like that very much. I think that is more or less where we have to start. This is not a show for the police, as I thought when I was a young chief of police in Sweden. I thought that police should solve all these problems with unsafe neighborhoods and a lot of criminality. But today I know better. I say that this is something that we have to share and try to solve together. And therefore I think, Laura, you had another picture here with some boxes. That was community. The next, I think
Yes.
it was. This is interesting. What I have been working with, do you understand me or do you need to translate? Or everybody, is somebody that, okay, you don't want to raise your hand?
Kas nesupranta ir kam reikėtų vertimo?
Because if you don't really understand my friend, then I think it's better that you translate, but you should. It's okay?
Yeah, it's
Try.
okay. We can continue.
Oh yeah, okay.
They can ask later.
Yeah, you can ask later, of course, yes, and I try to take it not that rapidly. Okay, what I've been working with in my career, I started, I'm graduated as a Master of Law, so I feel safe here when I'm with this, because I understand that you study law here on this faculty today. So that's why I started, and then I joined the Swedish police, and I ended up as police commissioner. This is what I have been working with during my time in Sweden, and also internationally, to try to make this part more efficient, to make it better. That is what I've been working with. In Sweden, at the top national level, in Stockholm, and also, of course, as a police commissioner outside in the police, but also internationally. I've been working down in the Balkans, I'm working also in Vienna, I've been working in Central Asia to try to help to develop the police authorities or the policing programs of these countries that have been war-torn, that was in war, you remember the Yugoslavian war and all that problems. To try to develop these police forces from forces to police services, from something that the state used to put pressure on the people to something that the state used as a part of the service for the people of the state. That is something, that is what we today call a democratic policing. That is what I have tried to help them develop. So this is the part that I've been working mostly. But today I understand that this is not enough just to try to develop this part. It must go hand in hand with the local government. The local government, the communities and the towns has to take a lot of responsibility in how to prevent criminality and how to make safe neighborhoods or safe communities. So it's so important. I thought that it was something just for the police, and we found some of our young police chiefs at that time, we thought that even the sun was rotating not around the world but around the police just. And I can understand it could be even worse in countries far east. And I was some year ago giving lectures in Beijing, in the worst, in the biggest police university of the world. So I can say that they still are a little in that system that we thought that we were running the world, but that's not true. And the development of the world is so rapid now, so the police has to understand that we are a part of this. But most of the crime prevention work, it is done by the local government and the community and the members of the community. And if we can have these things fit together like this, then we can cut the curve of the criminality in the Western world. Because the violent crimes and the gang criminality and the serious crimes is going in the wrong direction. But to stop that, we have to work in a new way, and that is what I try to present, and that's why I think it's so important that what I try to say now and tell you my experience, that's fit together what Laura just said. But it's not easy to fix. It's not an easy fix, I can tell you, because we work with people. So it's extremely difficult to try to have a result. It's extremely difficult. But of course you can manage it. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's not a quick fix. Okay, that was a start. Then I can take my presentation. We would share best practice models and working mechanisms during the conference. Yes, I tried to give you some of my best practice, what I have learned during my years in Sweden and internationally about how to make a good crime prevention inside the police and of course together with the rest of the municipalities, you can see. And therefore I'm glad to speak that to start with. I hope you have read this joint declaration of the Eastern Partnership Summit in Vilnius, 28th to 29th of November 2013. I had this in Friday, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it is a very important document from this Eastern Partnership Conference that we had. And it was very much interesting in this document what will come out from this summit in my country. And you know, one of the guys is that maybe you know of is Mr. Carl Bildt, who is the foreign minister of my country. He has been one of the guys that have tried to develop this Eastern Partnership. So we are very interested really in what happened in your town last week. And I think that I will say in my presentation exactly some of what you said in Vilnius, what the heads of state said last week. They said that the partnership is based on commitments to the principles of international law and to fundamental values, including democracy, the rule of law, the respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, as well as to market economy, sustainable development and good governance. This is exactly what I will tell you. This is exactly what I think must be in place to have a chance to develop the policing system. And also, it's very interesting to see that we have a lot of bullets here. The participants of the Vilnius summit set the following goals to be attained by the partnership by 2015. Further deepening relation and cooperation between the EU and partners. And the second bullet, making further steps in strengthening democracy, guaranteeing respect for human rights and rule of law, including through the pursuit of reform of judiciary and the strengthening of law enforcement. That was the second bullet here in Vilnius last week. That important is the topic that we discussed today. And what I have tried to do, and what I can share with you, is how to strengthen law enforcement, because that is what I've been working with most in my life. Okay, take the next picture. I'll just tell you a little about Sweden. 9.5 million inhabitants. More or less 1.5 million that have one or both parents coming from abroad. It's a completely new country today when compared to when I was a young boy. We had for many years, that is the reported crimes. But you must know as if you are a law student or studying like that, that is reported. Or from about 100 murder cases every year. But the interesting figures for us, all of us, is the number of unrecorded cases. These are the interesting figures. Because then that tells us a lot about the effectiveness of the policing system. Are people reporting criminality to the police and to the public prosecutor, or are they not doing it? And the rate here in Sweden, you can see some of the criminality is reported, but some of them are very less reported. 100, 1,000 or more, maybe. They are not reported criminality. And when I've been working down in the Balkans, there I learned that people said that we never report criminality to the police. That was something else that I have learned in my country. Because as an average, we think that something there, 1/3 of all, we say that reports, committed crimes, they are reported to us as the police, but we really don't know. The figures are very different, but we say maybe 1/3 is reported. But when I've been working down in other countries, they say, we never report crimes. That is the last what we should do, to report to the police. They said when I came down there as EU's police advisors, to the ministers. No, people don't report. So that's what we must have in mind when we start to work, to try to develop those law enforcement organizations. Today we have about 20,000 police officers and 8,000 civilians working with us. When I started in 1975, that figure was, I remember, 12,000, I think. So this has increased a lot. And this is about 2 billion euros is what is apparatus, the cost of it. And the cost is going like this. It's more and more expensive to run the police service of a country. And I will come back to that. Okay. I started in 1965 because it's interesting for you to understand how we developed the police in my country. before 1965, there was a mixed national and local police authority. There were mostly, the police were a part of how to run a city or a municipality. Like you have the school, you have the social institutions, you have the police. That was a part of how you run the city. The mayor had some tools to run a city or a municipality, and one of that tools was a local police. That's not the way today, and it's interesting for us to understand. We had 550 police districts and more than 1,100 places all over Sweden. You know, it's a huge country, because we had police officers everywhere. A lot over the surface, we had police officers. And then in 1965, we had the national police reform, and we said that, no, the police must be more efficient. You can't have a lot of police officers all over the country. You have to put them together in bigger units so they can be stronger, they said. And therefore we developed just 118 police districts. And now they are more or less independent from the towns and municipalities. We shifted from a part of the town to run them, you have the police, until something that the state is taking care of. It's a national police. And I will come back to that, because how to run a police force or a police service, hopefully, is very much depending on how it's organized. Okay. Just 10 years later, there was a new government committee that said the police with this new, in 1965, with this new reform, has lost their local responsibility. We don't see the police officers anymore. We don't know the police officer. We had them here in our town, but now they are some other. We want to have them back. That was the normal reaction from the people in Sweden and from the managers running the towns and municipalities. We must have a local police. So already 10 years after that reform, they started to see that what happens in a country like Sweden when the police are not still there at the local level in the way they were before. And they said, okay, we keep the organization with this 118 police districts, but we're directing the police to put more focus back to the local level, more close cooperation with the towns, municipalities and the people. That's what they said. You have to be back. Okay, we try to centralize a little, but at the same time you have to be back there and put focus together with the people in the villages. And you see that was more or less what you asked for. You wanted us to work together. But we tried here to shift, to leave the towns and municipalities. But the people wanted to have us back. So there the struggle began. Okay. In 10 years here, I was working here at the National Police Board in Stockholm. We said, when the people had said, try to direct more focus to the local level, then they told us, the National Police Board in Stockholm, to develop the Swedish version of community policing. And I think you will come back to that as well. Community policing is a way that is a program developed in America with a lot of researchers that said how you have the police to police at the local way, in a good way, to the local level in a good way. So that was what we tried to do. We tried to develop the Swedish community, and I was responsible for that, trying to develop this. We must have the police back to the people out in the day. They want to have them back. Should we have a chance to do crime prevention like that, to stop the criminality, to do good police work, we have to be there. But we had problems then to implement that, to resistance among police officers and also many chiefs. They said, no, we don't want to be back there. We are sitting in our new police houses, our new police stations. That commissioner of that time, he built 90 new police stations in Sweden, and the police officers like to be in there, and in the patrol cars, of course, because it's warm and nice. So I don't blame them. I should have done exactly more or less the same instead of being out there patrolling maybe alone or two out in the streets in some small city. So of course the choice they did to centralize a little, it's absolutely normal. That was the effect we got. And therefore we didn't manage really to do any community policing system, to have the police officers back on the local level. And in due time then, instead they said, you must be more effective, you must be more effective, was what the politicians told us. And then they said, 118 police districts are not effective. You must be more effective. And then they said they reduced the number of police districts to 21. Instead of trying to see how could we be better at the local level, they said they did some administration things. So they put together police districts instead and said, if you are just 21, then you will be more effective. So and we still have them, and I will come to the next phase. And also in this time, we had the first signs in Sweden of real gang criminality with these motorcycle gangs. We saw that the organized criminality was on the rise. Before we had the Yugoslavian criminals coming to Sweden, they were very hard-lying people. But now we started to see the modern types of criminality, the real gang criminality. That was that time. Okay. And also, at that time, we start to understand that to try to cut crime or to reduce criminality, it's not just something for the police. So we started to develop our National Council for Crime Prevention, presenting the first National Crime Prevention Program, and we can call that everybody's responsibility. And this is more or less what Laura just presented, how you want your organization to work. And this was our first National Crime Prevention Program, Allas vårt ansvar, everybody's responsibility, a National Crime Prevention Program. Then we started to understand in my country that to prevent criminality, it's not just something for the police. We have to take much bigger and broader responsibility with the people themselves, and also the municipalities and the towns had to do this. So there you can see the new era started. And that was about, I can see this is a little what you said, Lauren, your presentation, how to start local crime prevention work. That is what you want to do with your association. That is what we said, the country of Sweden must learn how to do this. A local model for cooperation with authorities and the public, that is what you said. And how to develop situational crime prevention. This is crucial, I will come back to this. You have two types of crime prevention, as you know, studying law. Social crime prevention and situational crime prevention. And they are totally, you can never mix those two. Social crime prevention, and I saw Laura had something of that, is when you try to build a good society and says, if you just have the babies and the young, if you build a good school for them, like that, then they will be nice people and they will not commit crime. That is the social crime prevention. And we have been the masters in my country to run social crime prevention models. But it doesn't reduce crime. Hopefully, the good guys will not commit criminality, but there are never any guarantees. Even the good guys commit a lot of criminality. But still in my country, we use a lot of resources and say that, a little more social crime prevention work, then they will stop, then they will be nice people. Of course, we don't say that this is wrong. Of course, it's nice and it's good for a modern society to invest, of course, in the people. We have to do that. Try to make them good citizens. Exactly what you said. Exactly. Of course. But you also have to combination situational crime prevention. How in the situation, how you stop criminality. And you can do that in 1,000 ways if you just start to think how you can do it. And I will come back to And that is my message today, that this is the way forward. Of course we should try to give our youngsters a good school, and you had something in your program you called youth develop. What did you say? You said that you called it youth program development. That is social crime prevention. That is good. But at the same time, you must be a little bit more hardcore and see how can we prevent a lot of things in another way. And that is where we are in my country today, trying to develop. Because the researchers on this field has helped us a lot about what is situational crime prevention. And I hopefully you have read about that, because that is the key to take the next step to stop the criminality. Okay. Still, we try to reform the police. The government wrote this everybody's responsibility, but still the criminality went like this, especially the violent. And then the government said, oh, the police are not, the government, they're not happy with the police. They said there's something wrong with the police. They can't stop the criminality. We have to do something. And then, of course, what they do, the government, what can they? They set up a new committee and say, we have to look into this. Why are the police chiefs like me not efficient? Why are not they running the police in the way that they can stop criminality? We have to look at this. A new committee was setting up. They set up the police organization committee. They say that we need higher quality, increased cost effectiveness, increased flexibility. We must build a better police. Needs improvement in police performance. They must perform better, those police officers. And that's because the structure of crime has changed, with an increasing proportion of violent crime, fraud, economic crime, IT-related crime, as you will discuss tomorrow. And the EU membership and the Schengen participation, of course, is a absolutely totally new society in Sweden today compared to 10 years back, compared to 20 years back, compared to 40 years. Totally new. Because of the EU integration, because of the Schengen, because of all the people coming through and through, and a lot of guys coming from your country as well, to my country. And I'm glad to be here today instead. We're chasing those guys. It's a complete new. And you have to understand that policing today is about working here with the EU membership and the Schengen. Here we have some of the solutions, of course, how to stop criminality. Because the bad guys are using the whole Europe, doing like this. And when you have been working 4 years down in the Balkans, I know where many of these guys, they have their origin there, of course. We started there, we have a lot of problems with drugs, drug criminality. They smuggle them to my country. So that is the situation, that is the new Europe. And we have to tackle that. Okay? And then they said that even if we have 21 police districts, police authorities, as I said, we have the big Stockholm Police Authority with 6,000 police officers, and we have some of the smaller ones out in the country with maybe 350 police. It's too different. The difference is too big, from 6,000 to 350. It's not good. You can't manage. You can't run a system like that. And then you understand where I will come. You can take the next slide. And the new organization that will start on 1st of January 2015, just one police authority in my country then. We started with 550 in 1965, and since 1965 we're down to just one police authority. That is the political way of answering the question that the criminality goes in the wrong direction. So the police must be more effective now. Just make it one police authority. and under command of the National Police Commissioner in Stockholm. Just one man or woman will sit in Stockholm now and run this whole police organization of 28,000 people. Divided into 7 police regions. And this is the trick now. To centralize, but at the same time also strengthening police activities at local and regional level. Of course they understand that is most important is the local level. Of course they understand. But at the same time they want to centralize a lot of the administration. So this is a trick to run this new organization. To centralize what could be centralized and what should be centralized. And at the same time let the local police work still be at the local level. That is the trick of this. And what could be centralized is the criminal investigation. That is good to centralize. Because the criminals go like this over the country. But the local crime prevention work together with your organization, that must be on the local. That will be the trick to run it. Okay? And the trick will be to strengthen the local police presence, both in rural areas. You need, a top. In the top, or up in Lapland, to have some police officers working in Lapland as well as in Stockholm, in Gothenburg, in Malmö. That is the trick of this, when it's now centralized. To have them in the rural areas, and areas in urban municipalities with high crime rate. And that are the suburbs of the big cities today. We have something called social disturbance today. Maybe you saw last summer we had riots in the suburbs of Stockholm and Gothenburg, especially in Stockholm. And I couldn't even dream of that when I started in police, that we could have riots in the suburbs, I can tell you, in the way that you can see. Burning cars, don't letting the police coming in, don't letting the ambulance coming in, don't letting the firefighters coming in, cutting the hoses of the firefighters, like threatening the firefighters. They say, no, it's burning like hell over there, but we are afraid, we don't go there. We want to go there, but the police officer said, no, you're not allowed to go because it's too dangerous. That could happen in my country, I couldn't dream of it. I heard of it. I've been in Chicago when it was rioting there, but I couldn't dream that I came to Stockholm. So you can see it's a new world coming up. And they have to have these police officers in the local area, rural areas, and also in the crime. That's a trick. More effective police activities is what they want. And more effective justice system should in turn lead to reduce criminality. Just make it a little more effective, and then we can reduce the criminality. And all of us know that maybe if you do that, then it's very hard to do. And also what we worry for us, and the reduction in people's fear of being exposed to crime. We talk a lot in Sweden today about the fear of being exposed to crime. We try to reduce that. And an increase in the security in the community. All that together will make Sweden a better place to live on. That is what this is. Okay? Do we have to take a break, or can I just continue? Is it okay?
Maybe you should
Continue, okay? So that's what you see, what we're going in my country, from many police districts or authorities to just one, and think that will make all of this more effective. And you can hear what I say, and how I looked at that, you have to be very careful. I think, is that the right way you're going? Yes, in some ways. Of course, it's good to centralize. But in other ways, you have to be have a very big focus on the local level. That's the trick to have this. This is also about policing. Some international trends that goes in the Western world today, and also I think in China. Police organization short of money. Go to America, you see, even the FBI, they should shut down the FBI for 10 days now. We don't have money enough to run the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, maybe the world's most famous police organization. They reduced the budgets in America by 10 to 15%. The same goes for England. They reduce it. They have a totally new police organization to make it cheaper. And asking them to come close, make it cheaper, 10%, 10, 15, 20% reduction. And at the same time, they have to work closer to the municipalities. That also. They invent something, local sheriffs in England. I didn't think of it. Because England for us and for me, for my generation of police chiefs, have been the beacon where we have looked upon the bubble on the beat like that. That is what we have seen as the best police officer you can find. That was a model for us. And now they haven't got money still in England to keep these guys. There's an international drop in traditional crime, and that goes also for my country, traditional crime. Because now people don't steal cars anymore in my country, or maybe in your country, because you can't steal cars. You have to by technical improvements, you can't steal cars. So then, of course, there's a drop in criminality. So, of course, we can reduce criminality with technical but the organized criminality, the IT-related criminality and corruption is increasing. And that's the bad part of this, because a lot of politicians in my country say, oh, it's good, crime is dropping, without understanding or saying that that is the problem, that the organized criminality, the IT-related criminality and corruption is increasing, but that's much worse. I should have the other way around. If that had been reduced and some more stealing cars, maybe I could have accepted that. But this goes in the wrong direction. And also, riots and social disturbance more common. People are not accepting things. They go out rioting in the streets. They're fighting their police. And the police have big problems in many countries today. And victims of crime don't get their rights. We have a hell lot of real victims of crime, and that's what my organization, Safer Sweden Foundation, works a lot with, to protect the rights of the victims. That's some international trends. Okay? Okay, this is what I told you, maybe these international trends are not nice to hear. But can we do something? Could I give you some positive feelings or vibrations, positive vibrations? Yes, of course there are. But we have to use the right tools. This is interesting. I made this presentation before I read this. 10 years ago, I think a week ago before I sent it to Laura. And you see here what they said about top priorities, and that is what I have. Rule of law is key. Rule of law, that make the whole rule of law system functioning, that the judges are not corrupt, that the police officers are not corrupt, that the police is working under the laws. I met a lot of police officers around the world that say, I'm the law. And I have my own law, they say. I arrest you if I like. That's exactly the opposite of rule of law. I've been working in I shouldn't say what countries I've been in. I've been also been giving lectures in Mexico. Human law, human rights for police chiefs in Mexico today. That's hard, I can tell you. To say that you have to follow the laws instead of say the laws are too weak. I have to arrest this guy. But still, I have to say no. I can't arrest him because the law, and I work under the law. In Mexico, maybe they take their Kalashnikov or that MK-15. Do you understand what I mean? And that is so hard for police officers to understand. We can see, police officers are smart, they see exactly what they should do, but they can't do it, because we have to behave under the law. And that is what we try to train the police forces former down in, like former Yugoslavia, because they were police forces. They said, we are the law. Like the sheriff, you remember, from the Western Fringe we saw. But that's not it. That's the people, that it's the parliament of the countries that tell us how to do. And we are just civil servants who have to do what they should. That is the real law. Rule of law. And that is what I think you should study a lot now, because this is the future when it comes to also when it comes to studying law. When I studied law in Stockholm, we had some small textbook in English and some in German. But today I think more than half, I said, of the curriculum in Stockholm today is in English. Because they understand that law is something that you have to in school like this. International human rights documents regarding policing are basic. That is what we have to understand. There is where we found the foundation of how to build a new police. It's not in the local communities, it's not just in our cities or in our parliament in Sweden. We have international human rights documents on policing. They are very important. We have European documents on policing. You have documents from European Council in Strasbourg, the European Code of Police Ethics. That is where policing starts. That is where you have to build from. And when you go to China like that and discuss with them policing, of course I have to start there. But because they haven't heard a lot about human rights. But everything starts there. And countries that are under transition, they are very aware of this. They understand the old system and they understand where to go to make democracy. And I will say today that to understand these two bullets is the best way for a young country to build democracy. And in Sweden today we have understood that, and we discussed that yesterday. When we said we have to help those countries. We must help them to build democracy. But it's very, very hard to build democracy if the people of the state don't trust their police officers, or if the judges are corrupt. It's very, very hard to build. So therefore we understand today that maybe it's the better way around to start to train the police officers not to be good police officers, to make the police force become a police service, to try to understand, to train the judges not to be bribed. Then the people start to trust the system, and then it's easier to build them. That's what we discussed today. Also, what I have learned, when I started in this more 40 years ago, we had no police researching. We had very, very, it was very, very small. But because of the situations in America in the 60s and 70s, where you remember they had their riots, when they shot dead a lot of the black people in the southern part of USA. We have that civil rights movements when they started to say, the civil rights guys, we can't have a country where our own police are killing our own people like this. We have to do something. Then the police researchers started to understand that this field must be researched. So today, and I have followed that for the police research for 40 years. We have a lot to learn from these guys. We cannot always do exactly as they ask because they are researchers, but they can help us to understand our own work, how we should treat the people when we do policing. They are very good, and we have a lot of good police researching today. We can look, as I said, we can learn a lot from them today. And what is their message if I try to say, what are the smart guys, the smart researchers helping me as a police commissioner to say? And that is more or less what Laura and her organization tries to have in your country. What you said with your pictures, maybe just in other words. So I think this is the most important part where we try to put this together. What we have learned today of all these documents and the research is that to try to fight criminality and to build safer communities, safer cities, better cities for the people that we serve and protect is to use an integrated multi-agency approach to cut crime. This is exactly what we can't say. This is the police to have to cut the crime. No, use an integrated multi-agency approach to cut crime.
Excuse me, can you penetrate a little bit deeper,
I
multi-agency?
will come to that. Yeah. It's not just the police. You can remember the picture of me. Young police chief said, I will fix this for you. Today I know much more. You must help me, and you must help me, and he must help me, and the school must help me. Everybody must help me, and I will come to that. And when we do that, that's the multi-agency approach. The people like you, but here you are students, you maybe are in NGOs like that, but also the university as an agent can help us to capture. And I know a lot of things. When I work with the security chiefs today that are head of the campus of the big universities in Sweden, they can do a lot to put crime in this environment. Can do a lot of things if they are smart and use situational crime prevention. Instead of reporting that we have a lot of thefts in our campus, we have rapes in our campus. We have robberies at the campus. We have a lot of bullying, school bullying here at the campus. And then we can say, I as the police chief, maybe I can solve some of those problems for you, but you can solve it yourself if you are head of security. You have to smartly think. Maybe we must have a camera there. Maybe we must lock that door. Maybe we can have some guards out here when it's dark. Maybe we must have better street lighting out here so that the female student can train in the night. You understand? I will come to that. I have some pictures. Okay. This is the answer more or less on here. To cut crime, police, local authorities, business, government, and NGOs must cooperate and coordinate that. Exactly what Laura will do with her organization. They must act and work more focused, using situational crime prevention strategies. This is very important, because there are many associations started like Laura, but it's very hard to fulfill something, because you must be very, very focused. Otherwise it's just me left. All the other guys say, no, I have things to do. I have to do my training, I have to do work with my children like that. I don't have time to do this. It's just the first guys in line left. So it's hard to start. You must know what you do. I will say something more of situational crime prevention. And what is promising, says the international, the research, community policing. And I think you will talk a little about community. That if you have a functioning community policing, it's good. That is good. CompStat, that's the New York NYPD way of trying to keep an eye on the middle management of the police. Are they doing what they should? Are they working as chiefs out there to taking care of their unit? Evidence-based policing, knowledge-based policing, these are things that the researchers have helped us to develop. And they say this is functioning. If you start to use them in the police, you will have a better result. And also effective is to have a focus on repeat victimization. We are working like a lot with that. If you are victim of crime once, the chance of being the second or third time is much, much higher. So if I should try to do some prevention, I have two people here. You have been a victim of crime, but Laura never. then instead of trying to protect Laura, I should protect you. Because the researchers I learned of, that there's a bigger chance that you are the next victim. But most police forces, they don't like to hear that. They want to do it like this, instead of make it focused, understand what the researchers say. Hotspot policing, that is the last year's training, you know, where you have in city centers, a lot of youngsters, they meet there, McDonald's like that, pubs, a lot of drinks like that. Of course, if you have police officers there, of course they can do a lot of good work and stop criminality. Third-party policing, if these guys are helped, try to problem-oriented policing and hot offenders. All this has the research help us. So you have the tools, you have the research, you can try to use them because they are proven functioning. Well, these are maybe also the answer to your question. Some partners in security. Here you have NGOs, you have the towns, of course. You have the people, property owners, police, public prosecutors, public housing corporation, the people that, the companies that owns the houses, they are very, very important. They can stop criminality. Public transportation, there's a lot of my foundation is working a lot in Stockholm with the public transportation because the film, I think, it's not safe to go there in night. And we know by situation, crime prevention, how we could try to make the situation much better. Insurance corporations, victim assistance NGOs, probation service when people are leaving prisons, then they are very vulnerable. Are they going to the left or to the right? Are they going back to the former community or bad guys? Or can we take them to the next step, to take the right road? Of course we can do a lot there. Private security industry can help us a lot if we use them. This is about knowledge-based policing. Aimed at building up social ties, networks, and shared understanding, as well as new local capacities and social practice. If we work together, we can try to develop things that are very, very proven, functioning to cut crime. Next picture. This is interesting because I think, Laura, you said something that the police have to share information.
Yeah.
This is exactly what the researchers say. The police have a lot of information, but it's in the police house. But if they start to share it, then these Finnish researchers said the powers and intelligence that the police possess, what I know and what I have, will be only of limited use in terms of preventing crimes, unless they are combined with the powers of others. If I can share some of it with you guys and say, this has happened in my town, can you help us? Can you go out and look in the street? Or maybe could you report? Could you call me? Then you start to be the third party policing. Because you have already seen what's happening, more or less. I can see now that I'm retired, so there is just, I think, one picture left. Okay. November 4, just a month ago, the police commissioner Mats Löfving in Stockholm, he said, we need higher ambition when it comes to cooperation with the municipalities in Stockholm County. Police and municipalities should talk with one mouth. You have to work like this. He understands that. And here it says how to fight the organized crime and how to take care of victims. That must be focused. That is his top priorities. Fighting organized criminality and take care of victims. Okay? My best recommendations. Develop a community policing model. That is my best. That is functioning. Study NYPD, New York Police Department, CompStat model. A lot of lessons learned for all of us when it comes to the importance of accountability at middle management level. It's very interesting. And my foundation, we do training trips to New York to study this model. Support the work of municipalities, towns, when they try to develop situation and crime prevention at local level. Support them from the... They are key that they start to do their job. And then I talked a lot about situation and crime prevention. These are the researchers. Clark, if you have heard of him, he is top. You have to read Clark to understand what situation and crime prevention is, because that's the key for taking the next step. And he says this in 3 or maybe in 5 bullets. Increase the effort, increase the risk, reduce the awards, reduce provocations, and remove excuses. If you start to do that, then you can stop with situational crime prevention. You can stop a lot of the crimes. But this is not used in the way it should be. In my country or in many other countries that I have been traveling. Still there's a much of focus, what can the police do? Instead of saying, what can we do ourselves to increase the risk of doing criminality at this campus? What can we do? Maybe put some cameras, maybe put some fence, maybe. We can do a lot of things. It's just you can do like this. You can do a lot of it. What can we do to remove excuses that the criminal said, no, I was drunk, so I must have my drugs, so I have to do it all. I have all these excuses. Try to reduce them. How can you do it? Of course you can if you start. If we have a seminar here for 2 hours, you will give me at least 100 examples of how we by situation and crime prevention can stop criminality. And then you say, hell, why are we not doing or using it? No, because we are so focused on what the police should do. We are so focused on social crime prevention. Good schools like that. Yeah, of course it's good. You should have good schools. But if you start to use this, then we can achieve a lot. Okay, I think, was there one more? Huh? Okay. That was my pictures. And I try to also to comment with you, because a lot of what you said in your, I think it goes directly into my view, my picture of what is going on in the international society and the international crime trends and everything like that. And then the hard way is with police officers is to do our part, of course, to implement this, but at the same time have an impact on the rest of the society, so they start to understand that they can do a lot. And then together, of course, we can achieve a lot. I'm absolutely sure. But it's not easy. It's not a quick fix, but we can do it. Thank you.